Disclaimer. I am a law student, and the legal information provided is not legal advice. For that, please hire an attorney. Okay. This one should be relatively easy. Alright? Alright? Okay. So.
Today for our daily cancel.
Wow, that came on really fast. So, why don't we have a chat about the Daily Wire? I'll bring this up so that people can see it, and then we'll go back to full screen. So, this is a video that was covered very recently. Riley Gibbs, Shelly Cam now. We'll get to it. We'll make Shelly Cam happen eventually. So this is a video put out by the Daily Wire, which is still confused. Like, isn't there a distinction between like Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire? Because now Ben Shapiro doesn't actually work at the Daily Wire. People can correct me if I'm wrong, but that was the last time that was the last that I had heard of it. But anyway, so Daily Wire still putting out content, still doing their thing, still doing that reactionary bit. And they put out a video called Leftist Gender Ideology is Nonsense. It's a big claim there, friend. It's a big claim you got there. So let's talk about it. So anyway, I got my research doc here. I got my gusto, got my uncooked ramen because I'm a degenerate. And this guy probably thinks I'm a degenerate anyway, so whatever. Yeah, let's just get on into it.
Today for our daily cancellation, we're going to be canceling everybody on the left celebrating the Kamala Harris VP pick.
Fuck. Also, Strawman, I know that Zan covered some of this, so I won't get into the specific arguments, or all the many minute arguments. But yeah, no one on the left is really celebrating Kamala Harris's VP pick, as far as I'm aware. It was a pick that was probably going to happen. It probably will be helpful in the election, but I don't think that anyone is celebrating it. He's equating us with liberals. Again, I know that's an argument that Zan made, so I won't get too deep into the weeds on that.
Because they can't celebrate it. It doesn't make sense for them to celebrate it. But you see, this is a common problem. One of the most prominent characteristics of leftists in modern America is their complete inability or unwillingness to apply their principles consistently, especially in their personal lives. Now,
explain. Kowalski. Analysis.
You see stark illustrations of this problem provided, for example, by the climate alarmist who warns of an impending apocalypse but still maintains a 401k.
Less than 30 seconds in and we're already at climate denialism. That's what we're dealing with here, people. It's gonna be a long night.
Pro-abortion zealots who congratulates a pregnant woman despite believing her to be infested by a subhuman parasite. Of course, there are also the well-worn examples of the socialist tweeting about the pitfalls of capitalism on his iPhone, the progressive politician.
A lot of these are just random one-off straw man. Again, Zan went through pretty much all of them, so I'm not going to get too bogged down in them. I want to hear the leftist gender ideology arguments. All right? That's what I want to talk about. And so far, I haven't heard a single one.
Preaching about the evils of guns while flanked by a squadron of armed security. So all of that, it seems that, if not for cognitive dissonance, many on the left would not have any cognition at all. Nowhere is this dynamic more obvious and glaring than in the arena of gender. Leftist.
Explain, because honestly, I feel like I've explained it before. Actually, you know what? Hold on. Let's talk about some. Let's talk about some consensus. Oh wait, I'm gonna put it like this. What's there really to talk about? I mean, yeah, here's an entire research document which affirms, which has sources affirming the validity of trans people, that biological sex does not determine someone's gender, and that biological sex exists on a bimodal distribution, which is a spectrum. And so when you try to place arbitrary categories of biological male or biological female, or in other words, binary categories onto a distribution, onto a spectrum, that ends up not fitting properly, and so you end up having to make that decision arbitrarily. Yeah, those are... It's actually very simple. I think I basically just explained, the entirety of leftist gender ideology in, 3 seconds. And that gender is, an internalized sense of self, but also, the expression of that gender to other people, right? There's a distinction between subject and the objective analysis of gender. You can subjectively identify as something, and congratulations, that's what you are. And objectively, gender is based in an objective sense based on like what society expects of you, and that changes over time depending on like which society expects from people. Like if you ask people from different cultures or different times throughout history, like that will change, right? But it is societally constructed, and that's the consensus of the evidence here. Don't make me tap the research document. I'm sorry, but yeah, like we'll go through specific arguments as they come up, but like to say that we don't have a consistent worldview, like we do, and surprise, it's also the scientific consensus. Amazing.
This gender ideology contradicts itself in so many ways. Enjoy yourself.
That fucking scares the shit out of me every time. But thank you, I really appreciate it. God damn, y'all are really killing it tonight. I really, really appreciate it.
Nearly going insane just trying to make sense of all of it, and I think that's by design, by the way. It's not one coherent theory, but a chaotic web of declarations and doctrines, each asserting itself without any apparent awareness of the others. One example.
No, actually, it's all pretty coherent. Like it is. So much so that I actually like made an outline where it's all laid out very coherently, and it all fits together. Amazing.
Example at random. We're told that sexual orientation is immutable, cannot be changed, right? We're also told that gender is fluid and can easily be changed.
Okay, so they're conflating. So he's conflating sexuality and gender already, which shows the amount of intellectual depth that this person is applying. And yeah, like sexuality. Well, I mean, like both sexuality and gender can, like the essential consensus is that like they are immutable traits of people, but like it can take a while for someone to figure out what they are, and someone can also be like multiple things at once, right? Like there's no finite amount of gender in some person, and there's no finite amount of sexuality in a person. It's not like you can only be attracted to men. That's the only thing you can be attracted to. Sorry, you're out of sexuality funds. You can't buy any more attraction. That's not how it works, because there are some people who are attracted to multiple people or no people or whatever, and that's cool. Like that's fine. There's no scarcity of attraction. Same goes with gender. Like, yeah, people can be like a different gender than what they were assigned at birth. It's an immutable quality, and some people can also be like multiple genders. They could feel fluid or go back from one to the other. Like, God damn it, y'all are. I really appreciate it. But anyway, the point being that like there's no reason that those ideas are like mutually inconsistent with one another, right? Like, yeah, it's an immutable quality, but some people could have like multiple forms of expression or can oscillate between different ideas, or can just be attracted to different kinds of people, right? That's not an issue. It's not. So yeah, that's a straw man, or he's just wrong, or it's both. Take your pick.
These two things cannot be true at the same time. If a gay man decides to identify as a woman, then either we must say that he is no longer gay since he's now a woman attracted to a man, or...
I mean, yeah.
He is not actually a woman. If he's...
I mean, yeah, if you were gay, like it's just... Being gay is just like being attracted to a gender different from your own. So yeah, like if you were... Like, if you're a trans woman and you used to be a man, you were attracted... Actually, fuck it. This is my experience. I am a walking, talking fucking example of this, right? Once upon a time, I know, like, listen, this is... It's super fucking personal to me, and, you know, it's hard to talk about, and, you know, I'm being super fucking vulnerable right now. But yeah, once upon a time, I used to be a guy, and I was attracted to women. And then I came out as trans, and I transitioned, and now I'm a woman. And surprise, I'm still attracted to women. So, whereas before I was straight, now I'm gay. Amazing. It's like accidentally leftist. Yeah, yes, yeah. Like there's no argument here. He's just trying to like propose that there's some like contradiction here when none exists.
He's no longer gay, then sexual orientation can be changed. If he's not actually a woman, then gender is not fluid. See, there are only three options here. Either sexual orientation...
Then sexual orientation can be changed? No, it's about who you're attracted to. Like, yeah, the label can change depending on like your own gender presentation, but like who you're attracted to doesn't really change. I mean, some people can discover later on that they might actually be something different because they've had some repressed feelings. I thought I was going to go through this, right? Like, I wondered if I actually was going to discover being attracted to men, and that was from some feeling that was like repressed in me, but like that doesn't mean that it changed, right? If that were to be the case, then it would be more me discovering something that was intrinsically true about myself rather than changing how I am. Yeah.
Orientation cannot be changed, and neither can gender, or sexual orientation can be changed, and so can gender, or sexual orientation can be changed, but gender cannot be changed. Any of those are logically possible, though only one is scientifically and factually correct.
He is correct in saying that one of them is scientifically and factually correct. And it's the one that's on our side, baby! Yeah, here. We can probably go through some stuff right now. What does it mean to be transgender? Does that include non-binary people? So, according to the American Psychological Association, transgender is an umbrella term for persons whose gender identity, gender expression, or behavior does not conform to that typically associated with the sex that they were assigned at birth. The APA and the National Association of School Psychologists affirm that gender-diverse expressions, regardless of gender identity, and diverse gender identities beyond a binary classification are normal and positive variations of the human experience. Furthermore, the NHS validates that some people do not define themselves as having a binary identity. They may use different terms such as agender, gender diverse, gender nonconforming to describe their identity. However, as a group, they are often called non-binary. Furthermore, according to the Canadian Institutes of Health Research, gender refers to the socially constructed rules, behaviors, expressions, and identities of girls, women, boys, men, and gender-diverse people. It influences how people perceive themselves and each other, how they act and interact, and the distribution of power and resources in society. Gender identity is not confined to a binary, girl, woman, boy, man, nor is it static. It exists along a continuum and can change over time. There is considerable diversity in how individuals and groups understand, experience, express gender through the roles they take on, the expectations placed on them, relations with others, and the complex ways that gender is institutionalized in society. The analysis is because transgender is an umbrella term. It is not limited to just binary trans people, and the conclusion is that being trans just means to identify as something contrary to how someone is assigned at birth. Therefore, this includes non-binary people too. Yeah. So trans people are valid. Hooray. Ooh woo. Oh whoa. People are gonna watch this and they're gonna look at that and they're gonna be like, oh, well, that's all I need to not believe this. There's my excuse to disregard all the scientific consensus. Also, to the biological sex argument, we can talk about this. Does biological sex determine someone's gender? Well, according to the American Psychological Association, gender identity for... All right, so we've already talked about that. I think we've already talked about the NHS's explanation of it. Furthermore, according to the... Oh yeah, we've already talked about this. The analysis is that gender identity and gender expressions are not mutually inclusive with one's biological identity. Therefore, biological sex does not determine someone's gender. And then, talking about like this idea of like biological sex... Again, here's a graph from Scientific American describing the many characteristics which factor into one's sexual identity. This shows the ambiguous and bimodal nature of sex, and that sex is not as simple as XX or XY. Biological sex is on a bimodal distribution, not a direct binary. Another publication in Scientific American elaborates on this subject. Sex is supposed to be simple, at least at the molecular level. The biological explanations that appear in textbooks amount to X plus X equals girl, and X plus Y equals boy. Venus or Mars, pink or blue. As science looks more directly, however, it becomes increasingly clear that a pair of chromosomes do not always suffice to distinguish girl or boy, either from the standpoint of sex, biological traits, or of gender, social identity. To varying extents, many of us are biological hybrids on the male-female continuum. Researchers have found that XY cells in a 94-year-old woman, and the surgeons have discovered a woman, a 70-year-old man, a father of 4. New evidence suggests that the brain consists of a mosaic of cell types, some more yin, others further along the yang scale. Additionally, here's a quote from the publication in Sage Journals of the Modern Scientific Attitudes on Human Sex. Quote, the view that the world's population could be separated into a clearly defined dyadic unit of male and female is defunct. Not only clinical observations, but molecular biology has established that sexual identity is on a continuum with an enormous potential for variance. Additionally, according to the Canadian Institutes of Health Research, sex refers to a set of biological attributes in humans and animals. It is primarily associated with physical and physiological features, including chromosomes, gene expression, hormone levels and function, and reproductive sexual anatomy. Sex is usually categorized as either male or female, but there's variation in the biological attributes that comprise sex and how those attributes are expressed. The analysis of all of this is that there's a modern scientific consensus. The modern scientific consensus is that binary terms like biological male and biological female are scientific fiction. This is because since biological sex is on the spectrum, when we choose to label someone as biologically sex or biologically male or biologically female is determined by society. So when you attempt to present societally constructed terms as empiric authority, it is scientific fiction. The conclusion is that no trans women are not biologically male and vice versa for trans men. Okay? Amazing. Maybe I should become a rapper. I don't know. But yeah, so let's go on.
But the theory that sexual orientation is immutable while gender is fluid is a logical impossibility. Somebody making...
No, it's not. You can be wrong, but you're wrong.
Such a claim might as well defend the inherent roundness of rectangles or the fundamental dryness of water. It is logically contradictory. It cannot be true.
I mean, the only one being contradictory here is you being contradictory to the modern scientific consensus. Deal with it.
The leftist confusion about gender and about what their own view on the subject is supposed to be has been especially on display ever since Joe Biden, of course, announced Kamala Harris, like we talked about, as his pick for vice president. There are other, funny and hypocritical things about the pick too, of course, such as the fact that Harris will now be working under and subordinate to a man that she tearfully denounced as a racist not even a year ago. But the greater point is that the media is...
Yeah, I'm not going to defend Harris. I'm not exactly a fan. So I'm not gonna defend her.
Ecstatic reaction to a woman VP pick is belied by the rather serious problem that women don't technically exist, according to...
What? No. Women do exist. Women is a gender identity. We already talked about this. What the scientific consensus is. Yeah.
Leftist ideology. According to them, the word woman has no discernible meaning. A woman...
Nope.
...is not necessarily a person with XX chromosomes and female reproductive organs. A woman is not defined by anything physical, nor neurological, nor psychological, nor behavioral. A woman is...
This is all straw man. This is all straw man. When he's done with the straw man, I'll make a response.
Not defined by anything. Which is to say that a woman isn't anything in particular. Woman, by the light of the left's philosophy, is an arbitrary concept. It has no substance. It is not objective.
Almost. He's right in saying that, like, it is arbitrary. It's dictated by society, right? At least in an objective sense. It's funny that he used the term objective, and maybe people will get hung up. I'm using objective in a legal sense to describe, like, basically how the reasonable average person in society would define a woman to be, right? It's supposed to, it's a term of art which tries to capture the common opinions on a particular subject, right? Like, that's what it means to be objective, at least in the law. All right? So, yeah, gender is an objective term, at least when we look at how society treats people who reciprocate certain characteristics objectively. We run into instances where, in our society, or at least in America, right? If you have a certain kind of voice and you have, like, stereotypically longer hair or, like, certain facial features or whatever, then, like, if you have enough of these features together, then congratulations, you will be seen and treated as a woman when you walk down the street. Amazing. And that's how gender works, at least in the objective sense, right? In a subjective sense, then, yeah, you can identify as something and that's how you are. Now, there's often overlap because we have a lot of people in society who are advocating, right? This is that dangerous trans activism, right? But the more people who are advocating for basically the average person in society to acknowledge when someone says something like, hey, I have preferred pronouns, I'd prefer that you use those to refer to me. Like, the more those ideas become normalized, the more that is reflective of what a gender is, right? So, like, if you, and again, so this is, like, how I differentiate myself from, like, a trans medicalist, right? Because in a lot of ways, our ideas might overlap. But, like, if we normalize, for example, online spaces where people can use roles to say, to say that they have specific pronouns, I wonder where that could possibly be. Hello, Discord. How are you? How are you doing? Hello, I'm talking about you. And we have a space where we sort of accept as a given that people who claim to have a certain gender identity subjectively and want other people to respect that identity and use certain pronouns, if that becomes a normalized belief and a normalized way to like objectively look at gender in that space, then congratulations, you've shifted the objective definition of what it means to belong to that gender, right? Because now people in that space will be treated as that gender. Amazing. That's how that works. That's how that works. That's why why do you think I fucking do the roles for my Discord? You know, like that's the reason why. Because like we as a Discord and we as a certain space online and, you know, a growing part of society recognize that like gender is not like people who belong to certain genders are not just like people with specific types of faces or voices or whatevers. Like that a lot of these categories are a lot broader. Yeah. So let's go on.
It can mean anything and be anyone. If you think I'm overstating the case here, then just approach any leftist currently extolling the woman vice presidential nominee and simply ask them what they mean when they say woman.
A woman is someone who identifies as a woman and who is treated as a woman in a space that encompasses both an objective and a subjective analysis of what it means to be a woman. Subjective meaning that you identify as one, objective meaning that for whatever reason that you are treated as a woman in whatever spaces you occupy in society. Boom. The easier answer would have been to just say what Zan did and say that a woman is an identity. And like that is true. I'm not disagreeing with that on the merits. I'm just giving like the more nuanced take on it. So yeah. Hey, thank you.
They will not be able to answer the question. They cannot define the word, and I mean literally cannot. Their ideology won't.
Yeah, I just defined it. Like pretty extensively, actually.
Allow it. Now, if you do pose this question, you know, the eternal question that I have been posing to leftists for years now, the most likely response will be a deflection, accusing you of being a transphobe or whatever, but, you know, of course, not actually answering the question.
No.
You may, however, be presented with some...
And no, I mean, like, you are being transphobic, don't get me wrong, but you're also just being a science denier. So you're being both. Like, you're wrong. And by trying to promote these beliefs as like, empirically valid or things that people should believe, then, yeah, you're being transphobic. I'll say it. I'll say it.
Some kind of attempt at an answer. So let's go through a couple. Here's a common one, one that I've heard many times. A woman is an adult human female, which, yes, this part is correct. This
I didn't realize this. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because this is just a straw man. This is like turf logic. He doesn't even know the difference between like a leftist and a turf. That's how much he doesn't know about trans issues. Doesn't even know what a turf is. He just thinks that we're all apparently the same fucking... We're all just apparently the same thing, I guess. So yeah.
This is the actual answer. You win the prize. Congratulations. Adult human female. That's what a woman is. But then they'll
and no.
continue. An adult human female or anyone who identifies as an adult human female. Now our coherent and correct definition has been thrown into chaos. Because this
Explain, Kowalski.
definition is just another way of saying that a woman is an adult human female or not an adult human female. Woman has no definition if that is a definition. A thing cannot be what it is and also what it isn't. This is like saying that a tree...
I mean, this is just, I mean, like, it's, what you represented is like a crude way of describing like social construction, right? Something can become something by virtue of the fact that people around you agree on it. Like, that's the reason, you realize that's the reason money exists, right? Like, it's not like money just has an intrinsic value of one, you realize that like if I raise $1 bill, it doesn't just intrinsically have a value of $1 that's good wherever you use it in America. The reason it has a value of $1 is because we as a society have agreed that's what its value is, based on a number of reasons. It used to be the gold standard, now it's fucked. I don't know, maybe that's a controversial take. I have to think more on it. But like that's what you're describing as social construction, and that's a thing that exists in our society. It's actually pretty common. It's literally a part of every single day if you ever handle like physical money.
Is a tree or anything that looks like a tree. So a drawing of a tree actually isn't a drawing of a tree because it is the thing that it's a drawing of? That makes no sense. A similar problem for people who say trans women are women. Okay, then why do you...
You should just stop there because you're right. Trans women are women. Hooray, you won the prize. You're about to throw the prize down the toilet, but you would have won it if you just stopped there.
Call them trans. What does the trans part denote? Is there in fact some notable difference between trans women and non-trans women? If so...
I mean, yeah. Like, trans women are women, but, like, acknowledging them as trans does not, like, rob them of their validity as being women, right? It's literally just, like, a descriptive term for describing the difference between trans and cis women. That's it. Doesn't, like, invalidate trans people. That you have to use, like, the term trans to describe trans people. I like that we have people from Bosch's fucking. Yeah.
So then the two groups are fundamentally different. But if you say they are not fundamentally different, then it doesn't make any sense to.
I mean, like, no one's saying that they aren't different. Just that one of them is not woman. Like, no one is saying that, like, trans and cis women aren't different, but, like, it would also be incorrect to say that trans women are not women, right? They're just different kinds of women. That's it. Also, like, something that was interesting that was discussed, again, like, I've referenced the Lavender Law, the LGBT Bar Association conference that happened this past week. Excuse me. And one thing that a panelist said that I thought was really interesting is that a lot of, like, TERFs and transphobes will try to make these sorts of arguments appealing to this idea that there's, like, a scarce amount of womanhood, and that, like, by bringing more people into the mix of what it means to be a woman, then somehow you run out of womanhood. Womanhood is very finite, which is just a logical fallacy, right? I hate to tell you, but, like, including different people and what it means to be a woman doesn't, like, dilute, or doesn't, like, it doesn't lower the meaning of what it means to be a woman. Right? Like, there's not, like, a scarce amount of womanhood. It's not like there's a finite amount of womanhood. Like, it's a social construction. It can be whatever we want it to mean as a society. This is just, like, an unfounded fear.
Differentiate them the way that you already do in the way that you refer to them. So none of this makes any sense. You might also be told that words like
the only one who isn't making any sense here is you, bud.
Woman and man are on a spectrum. Okay, then tell me.
I mean, if you're saying that, like, biological sex is on a spectrum or gender that is on a spectrum, then yeah, you're right there. And I already cited the authority to be able to back up those claims earlier in the video.
About this spectrum. What is on either side of this spectrum? Define the people who exist on the extreme ends of the woman side and the man side. If someone is on the spectrum between man and woman, what does that mean?
It means that there are people, like, y'all know how bimodal distribution works, right? I'm not going to get MS Paint, right? But it means that, like, you have two sides, all right? That most people fall on either, like, here or here, all right? You can think of it like kind of like boobies, right? You have a graph where it's kind of like up and up one and then down, and then it goes up and then up again and then back down. All right, so most people will generally be in one of the two areas, all right? Most people will generally be in one of the two areas, right? You'll have some people who are on the outskirts of that, like either super manly men or like super feminine women or non-binary people or whatever, right? But then because there is variation, you have a lot of people who are just kind of average in the center of those two, like whatever you want to call it, like hills in the graph. And then you have a lot of people in the middle who don't really fit on either side, right? That's how that works. It's how that works. It's actually very simple.
Between what and what? So you can't escape the definition problem by talking about spectrums. If the spectrum takes us from one undefinable thing to another undefinable thing, then it is not a spectrum. It is more like a black hole where all sense and reason and the very laws of science break down into nothingness.
Talking about black holes where all sense and reason breaks down into undefinable nothingness. Ironic.
So what exactly does a man mean when he says, I identify as a woman? What is a woman?
That phrasing, though, assuming that trans people are not valid. Okay. That's cool, bud. You can just be wrong. I can be right, and you can be wrong, and that's all well and good. You know? You can just go ahead and be wrong. Own that you're a science denier. I think that the world would be a lot better if people who are, like, preaching these kind of beliefs would just, like, go out and say that they're science deniers, that they just directly, you know, contradict scientific consensus. Because that would make my life a lot easier, because then the average reasonable person wouldn't fall for some of this bullshit. But here we are.
Is a woman in the end? just anyone who enjoys feminine things or dresses in a feminine way? Well, that can't be it, because we can't define feminine until we have defined the word woman. The definition of feminine is hinged on the definition of woman. Also, this...
No. How? How is the definition of feminine hinged on the definition of woman? People can be feminine without... Actually, no, hold on. Because my understanding was that like a big criticism of conservatives, of like liberal men or like left-leaning men, was that they're too feminine. That they're all soy boy cucks. Well, hey, I mean, like, you know, if you just want to acknowledge that like there's no such thing as a soy boy and all that, then hey, that's an interesting concession. You know, I feel like it's a little contradictory in your worldview, but you know, like if you want to acknowledge that, then like, hey, yeah, like there aren't any feminine men. It's a very interesting kind of like lead in for your logic, but you know, it's like, hey, I guess, you know, I don't know how to justify this, people. This is fuck me.
This definition would turn a lot of women into non-women and a lot of non-women into women. Besides,
explain. I'm gonna turn you down.
The left has been trying to break down
Fuck! I gotta lower the volume for that, but thank you. I appreciate it. Pink was a boy color for a long time. Yeah, I remember that. Especially over in like parts of Europe, right?
Societal constructs of feminine versus masculine for years now. Surely you can't go from not all women should be expected to be feminine to the only defining characteristic of womanhood is femininity.
That's not what people are saying. That's why there's a distinction between gender identity and gender expression, right? Difference between objective and subjective analysis. People can identify as one way, but, you know, they can represent themselves in others. Like, wearing a suit isn't generally a very feminine thing to do. But mind you, because women have normalized wearing a suit over the past 50, 100 years, now, whereas before, it would not have been indicative of me being a woman, right? Or it would go in contradiction to it. Now it doesn't. Are you fucking serious? Oh my god damn. Oh my fucking god damn it. Are you serious? We're back. It's back. Oh my god. Okay, it actually, all right, I think I've got the same stream from before. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna edit that out. There's a spot with no audio now. It's fine. This will be the last video because I cannot I'm going to lose my goddamn mind if there's another issue like that, all right? I will. We will pick up the Paradox Institute in Sydney Watson the next time I stream. This will be the last video, okay? God, what was I saying? I'm going to keep playing so we can get to the point.
So what is a woman? They have no answer.
I've already answered it multiple times. We've already answered what it means to be a woman multiple times. I think that the funniest thing is the fact that, like, he keeps on making the straw man. Like, he fundamentally shows that he does not comprehend, like, arguments from the left, right? That he can only, like, argue against this very arbitrary straw man position of the left, which is what a lot of people do, right? Most people, like, especially people, like, fuck, I've debated people on here who have said that, you know, the left is trying to destroy the definition of what it means to be a woman. And no, that's entirely false. All right, no one's trying to destroy what it means to be a woman. No one's trying to steal away your womanhood. Ooh, the scary leftist coming to steal away your womanhood in the night. Scary. No, that's just not true. All we're doing, all that, you know, like, advocates are doing are just expanding what it means to include people who are women. Right? Because there was a point in time when I would not have been included as being a woman, and I would say that's pretty fucked up. Oh. Like, part of me just wants to look at these people and be like, fuck. I feel like I should be included in definition of what it means to be a woman, right? And then, like, I feel like other people in similar positions should also be able to as well, right? And mind you, I don't want this to be misconstrued in like a transmedicalist argument, where it's like, I look like a woman, therefore I must be a woman, right? Because the definition changes over time. The point is that, like, no one's trying to rob away what it means to be a woman, and no one is trying to, like, oh, and the left, like, can very cleanly answer what it means to be a woman, like, very easily. The left wants to take away my pizza rolls. Yeah.
As leftists, though, they are obliged to celebrate the achievements of women, even as they are obliged to also deny the objective existence of women.
Nope. At least in the way that he framed it. Like, yeah, it's cool to celebrate the achievements of women. But no one denies the existence of them.
This is the paradox that we are expected to pretend we don't notice. But we should notice it, because it reveals the basic incoherence of leftist gender ideology.
Okay, I think that's pretty much it. So, yeah. I don't know what to tell you, folks. Like, I can see why they really needed Ben Shapiro for a while, because at least when Ben Shapiro makes a terrible argument, he knows what to say to make it sound halfway coherent and halfway reasonable, or like halfway convincing. But as we learned earlier tonight, like, even, you know, when he tries to sell the shit, unfortunately, he always runs up into the issue of science isn't on his side, evidence isn't on his side, facts are not on his side. And that's especially true here, but like, it's a lot easier to recognize it. Because not only is this guy just wrong and transphobic, let's be clear, he'll be like, oh, well, they're just calling me transphobic because they can't actually make an argument. No, we've made all the arguments, we've shown the receipts, we can show exactly why he's wrong and point to the sources. But like, God, is it a lot easier with him, right? I don't even know, what the fuck is this guy's name? I don't know, I don't care. But he's wrong, and it's important to recognize why he's wrong.